The macroeconomic data of India, it shows some variables like FDI, GDP, exports, imports, exchange rate, and population growth rate for the years 2002 to 2018. Now, we want to show the data of FDI in the form of a bar graph. So, what I'll do is I'll simply select these two variables, the years and the FDI. I will go to Insert and I'll select this icon, which is displaying a bar graph. I'll click on it and I'll select the simplest one, that is the first one. Now, this graph is simply showing me the data of FDI inflows of India for these years. But there are some problems in this chart. Like you can see, I can't see the years in the x axis where it should be showing me the year wise naming. And this y axis is supposed to be showing me the FDI values of every year. But here in this case, if you see, the years is being taken as a variable, whereas the year should not be a variable. The only variable is the FDI. So I want to change this graph a little. So what I do is I right click on this. I click on select data. Now this grid has opened up, which shows me legend entry series on the left side. And on the right side, it shows me horizontal axis labels. Axis labels is nothing but this option, years and FDI. So first I will want to remove years as the variable from this data sheet. So what I do is on the left side of the window where it mentions years and FDI, I will select years and I will click on remove. Now only FDI data is being displayed. Now secondly, I want the year to be displayed here. Instead of 1, it should be showing 2002. Instead of 2, it should be showing 2003 and so on. So I will go to this option, that is the axis labels option, and I will click on edit here and I will select the years 2002. I will drag the mouse right up to 2018 and I click on OK. So now it's showing me the correct information in this bar graph. On the y-axis, it shows the FDI value, and on the x-axis, it shows the number of years. Now, if I want to make some cosmetic changes to it, I can simply right-click on the graph and format chart area. Suppose I want to select the bars and change the color of these bars to say yellow. Then I'll go to the color option and click on yellow. If I want to change the color only of one bar, say of the year 2016, then I will select that particular bar and change it to say black. Now, if you want to make some other cosmetic changes like changing the borders, adding a border, then I will select a solid line. Now it's showing me a border for this graph area. If I don't want it, I'll select on no line. Now, other cosmetic changes include if you want to remove these grid lines, the gray lines which you see, simply select them and click on delete. Now the grid lines have disappeared. If you want to add them back, then click on this plus option, the icon which you see here, and click on the grid lines option. Now the grid lines have reappeared. Now, if you want to make some other changes, like say adding a trend line means basically showing the pattern in which the FDI inflows is moving. Now, India's FDI inflows have been consistently on the rise since 2002 to 2018 with a slight drop in between. But overall, the trend shows an increasing trend. So, the trend line shows an upward trend. If I don't want a trend line, I can simply remove it. If I want to add data labels, that is the value of each year, these values, then it's becoming very cluttered. So I will simply remove this. I don't want to add the data labels. If I want to add the data table, that means year wise FDI inflow briefly, then I will select the data table option where it's showing me the year wise information. Now, if I want to add access titles, where you simply define what the x-axis is and what the y-axis is, then in the x-axis, you can write year and y-axis will be my FDI inflows in INR. Now, in this graph, I don't want to show the year here at the bottom because it's already being displayed right under the bar. So what I'll do is I'll simply select this, click it once and click on delete. There you have a final bar graph for FDI inflows of India. Histogram is basically a type of a graph which shows values as per the ranges. Continuous data. It shows continuous data. Continuous data means anything that is in the form of a range. Suppose if you want to show the proportion of people in different age groups, say 5 to 10 years, 10 to 15 years, and 15 to 20 years. So now here this is called a continuous data. So histogram is used only when you want to show continuous data. Now, in this case, our data is not continuous data because each year's value is different from another year's value. FDI of 2002 has nothing to do with 2003. This is independent of each other, so this is not exactly continuous data. But suppose if I want to present this in the form of a histogram, say exchange rate, if I want to show exchange rate clubbed together for the year 2002 to 2018 as per specific ranges of say 40 to 50 and 50 to 60 and 60 to 70 and so on, then I can select the histogram option. For that, what I will do is I will I will select all the observations of the exchange rate variables like this. I will go to insert and click on the histogram icon. Now this is the histogram icon. It's very easy to confuse between a bar graph and a histogram, but this right here is the histogram option. So select it and select the topmost one. Now you see Excel has split my entire data into three ranges. The first one is 41.35 to 54.35. The next one 54.35 to 67.35. And the third one is 67.35 to 80.35. So it shows the data of exactly 13 points each. The difference between 54.35 and 41.35 is 13. Similarly, for the remaining two ranges also, the range is 13 numbers. So, suppose if I want to change this range, instead of 13, the difference of 13, I want to split it into say 5 different ranges. So, what I do is I will click on this option, this y axis. I will right click on it and click format axis. Now this window has opened up on the right side, which shows me bins. Bins is nothing but the number of ranges. So in this case, we have 3 bins because that has been selected automatically by Excel. Now, if I want to define the number of bins to say 5, I want to split this entire data into 5 ranges. I will simply edit this option and now the data has been split into 5 bins. This bin was also of equal ranges. In this case, it shows a range of 5 instead of earlier 13. So the difference between 46.76 and 41.35 is 5. Similarly, for the remaining 4 bins also, the range is 5, 5, 5 each. Now, suppose if instead of number of bins, I want to show each range of say 3, the value of 3 each, that is the difference between the upper value and the lower value should be 3, then I will define the bin width in this case. So I will change it to 3. Now my data has been split into bins of 3 value each. So pick any value in this bar graph, in the histogram, you will see a range of 3, like 50.35 and 53.35. The difference between these two numbers is 3. Now, if I want to club all the years in which the exchange rate was above 50, then what I do is I go to overflow bin and I type 50 here. Now what Excel has done is it has selected all the years with exchange rate of above 50, that is for the year 2012 to 2018, into one single bin here, and the rest of them have been split into bins of range 3 each, which I defined here earlier. Similarly, if I want to club all the years in which my exchange rate was less than 50, then I will select underflow bin. I will deselect overflow bin and I will define here 50. Now what this Excel has done is it has clubbed all the years for which the value was less than 50 into 1 and the rest of them has been split into bins of value 3 each. Again, here you can make some cosmetic changes as you want. Say if you want to change the color of the bins, then you can go to solid fill, sorry, select the bars, go to solid fill, and now it has changed. If I want to change it to yellow, I can select the yellow color here. Similarly, other cosmetic changes which you want to make, you can make here, like editing the chart title to exchange rate. Now, if I want to add axis labels, axis titles, then with this will be exchange rate range, and this will become the frequency, that is for how many years was my exchange rate less than 50. It was for 10 years. So this one will be, the y-axis will become frequency. Do note that a histogram display only one single variable. The year will not be displayed as a variable here. Only one single variable is being displayed, that is the exchange rate. So this is how you create a histogram in Excel. A scatter plot is nothing but a type of chart in which the data points are plotted in the form of dots or points. So suppose if I want to display the scatter plot for the variable FDI as per the years. So what I do is I select these two variables, I go to insert and select the scatter plot icon. Select the first type and now my scatter plot is displayed. The x-axis shows the year and the y-axis shows the values of the FDI inflows in India. Now scatter plot shows outliers which are, because of which it's very useful. It basically displays the trend. So if anybody wants to know the trend of any variable, then it's best to use a scatter plot. Now, if I want to see a trend line, whether the FDI inflow is increasing or decreasing or it's variable, then I simply click on this plus icon here and I select the option of trend line. So now you see the trend line is being displayed. It shows the increasing trend of FDI, meaning for most of the years, the trend has been on an upward swing in India, the FDI trend. Now, if I want to make some changes to this graph, like say if I want to add the GDP variable also to this, then I drag this. Now this graph is showing me scatter plot for two variables. One is the GDP and the blue one is the FDI. But you see the trend of FDI has now changed. You can't see much of a increase here, whereas the GDP seems to be increasing. That's because the values of GDP and FDI are very different. GDP is in lakhs of crores, whereas FDI is not that much. It's in thousands of crores. That's why the trend lines have now changed. Now, if I want to make some cosmetic changes to this, like say the color of the dots, then I will click on the dots. I'll go to the marker option and change the color here to yellow. Say. If I want to make some other changes like removing these grids, then I click on the grid lines and simply delete it. Now it has deleted the grids. Now some other changes if I want to make, like say adding axis titles, then my y-axis can be defined as the year, sorry, x-axis, whereas the y-axis can be defined as GDP and FDI inflow in INR. Now, any other changes which you want to make can be done by selecting the plus icon, like adding a chart title, GDP and FDI. It's very difficult to show economic data in the form of a pie chart, because like this data cannot be shown in the form of a pie chart, because pie chart is basically to show the proportion of a variable in a whole, like how many percentage of the people are males and females, or how many percentage of the people or population is married or unmarried. Whereas in this case, there is no real scope of showing the proportion of a whole, because there is no whole here. This is time series data. Time series data cannot be displayed in the form of a pie chart. Let me just quickly show you with the example of another data set how to create a pie chart in Excel. Suppose if I want to show in the population of India that there are 180 males and 120 females. Now, this data can be plotted in the form of a pie chart by simply selecting these two things, going to Insert, and go to the pie chart icon. Select the simplest pie chart. Now, the chart has been displayed here. If I want to add the data labels, then I will go to this and click on the data labels icon. I don't want it inside the pie, I want it outside the pie. So, what I do is I click on this arrow and select outside end. If I want to select inside end, this one. If I want to select the center, then like this. Trend lines are very popular in economic data, but it's to only show a simple trend, a time series trend. So what I do is, suppose if I want to show the trend of FDI, whether it's increasing or decreasing. So I will select these two variables again. I'll go to the insert option and click on this icon which shows a line, and I'll select the simplest one. Now the trend line has been displayed. But you see, it is taking years as a variable here. You see, this graph is showing years as a variable, which I don't want. I just want to show the trend of FDI. Year is not a variable for me. So what I'll do is, I'll right click on this part, go to select data. I'll click on the years where it shows legend entries, and I click on remove. Now the years has been removed from my Excel, sorry, my chart, the trend line chart, and it shows only FDI trend. Now here, instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, I want it to define the year. Number 1 is supposed to be year 2002, number 2 is supposed to be year 2003, and so on. So what I do is, in this category, horizontal axis label, I click on edit and I select the label range, which is 2002 to 2018, and I click on OK. Now the years has been displayed here, so I click on OK. Similarly, you can make cosmetic changes to it. Like you want to change the color of the line, you can change it to whatever you want. Remove the grid lines, you can remove the grid lines if you want. And you want to add axis labels, you can add the titles. The x-axis becomes the year, the y-axis becomes the FDI inflow, and so on.